Alrighty, and we are live. Nice. Cool, so this is my first time going solo and doing any of this, so we'll see if this turns into a train wreck or if this goes well. I thought it'd be good to kind of come on and talk about what happened with Young Americans for Liberty Revolution and, how things went for the Mises Caucus. For those who don't know who I am, my name is Mitch Connor. I am 1/7 of the Swamp Creatures on the Swamp Creatures podcast. Go check us out. It's mainly just all of us Florida Mises guys. I'm also one of the state coordinators here in Florida for the Mises Caucus, and it's been a very interesting weekend, to say the least. Just with everything that happened with Young Americans for Liberty and, everything we had tabling. So this is just me coming on here and talking about that the whole ordeal. If those of you aren't familiar with Young Americans for Liberty, it's kind of like a youth liberty organization. They generally support Republican candidates. That's kind of their thing. If they endorsed any libertarians or anything like that, I'm not aware of it. But I kind of always had a soft spot for them because they kind of are the reason I'm here to some degree. And it was a very interesting weekend. I really wish I had Rob on here with me. He was the other guy who was tabling with us. So basically what happened was originally I was just going as a guest, but then Michael Heiss kind of hit me up and said, hey, would you like to help us table? And I thought, okay, why not? Why not? I'd like to help the caucus out. It's what I do. So I got there on Thursday, kind of got our whole thing set up, got some packages in the mail that basically contained all of our supplies, and yeah, basically got all that stuff set up, had our signs as well. Unfortunately, someone took it. They took one of our signs. That kind of sucks. Like, people don't take their stuff, but apparently someone missed the whole don't take their stuff part. But, it was still a really good, really fun time. And it was really interesting interacting with all these people. Dave Smith kind of talked about this. I think it was with Freedom Fest recently, where it's like it's interesting to kind of venture outside of that Libertarian Party bubble and really show people what we're all about with the Mises Caucus. So, yeah, I suppose I'll just start things off here by day one was pretty simple. We were just kind of, like, a lot of people were coming in. It wasn't as busy as day two. But we really did shake a lot of hands, meet a lot of interesting folks, really just tell them about the Mises Caucus and what we're all about. Because even though this is there's a lot of people who did know who we were, but there's also a lot of people who didn't know who we were. There were also some people who thought we were the Mises Institute, which that was always funny. But it was really great being able to tell people who we are and what we're all about, because generally a lot of these Republican liberty folks, when they really heard what we were, they were like, oh man, no, I like you guys. Talking about how we want to do this stuff to help local candidates more than anything else. That seemed to be something that really resonated a lot. Also the idea of, let me just fix my lights, I'm like a perfectionist here. Also just explaining to them what we're all about and how we want to bring the Ron Paul revolution back to the LP. It was almost like music to the ears of most of these people. And of course, you still had a few people here and there who weren't too hot on the whole thing. Like there was one guy who, when we brought up that we have coalitioned with different groups and stuff like that, he was not a fan of that. So, but that's whatever. Another woman who, like an older woman who, oh, Mises, that's Henry Hazlitt's wife, right? And I just politely corrected her, like, oh no, that's actually the Austrian economist Ludwig von Mises, and then just got pretty much pissy. It's like, I'm sorry, like I'm just trying to explain it, But overall the reception was really great, and it was great. One thing that was peculiar was, I want to say it was 2015 when I went to D.C. for a Young Americans for Liberty conference, saw Ron Paul speak, saw Jack Hunter, saw Matt Kibbe, saw all these different folks. But one thing about that one, which was different than this one, is that one had speakers from the Libertarian Party on panels. The Libertarian Party had no we were representing the Libertarian Party as a whole at this event. And I don't know if that had to do with the sort of people who've been in charge of the LP, which have been my inspiration to come and be a part of the Mises Caucus to change things, but there were libertarians, like Libertarian Party speakers, or at least one or two when I went back in 2015. There was like not even a table, not a presence at all. And I don't know, there was something to that, because I also talked with Magnus. I can't remember his last name, but Magnus, the redacted guy, because he was there as well, and he also had some ideas that seemed to really resonate with Scott Horton. But like we got to get out into the community and all that and do things. And while I do agree with that, we still got to have a presence at these things. Like these are our people, man. Like I don't know how else to put it. Like I don't know. That's just my that's I guess that's kind of a little criticism of the LP there. But the first day went really well. Just talking to different people, shaking hands, and telling them all of what we're all about with the Mises Caucus and our goals to bring the Ron Paul revolution back home to the LP where it belongs. And it should have been there since he ran, since the end all ended in 2012, in my opinion. But moving on from that, when it comes to the speakers, there were many great speakers. And one of them was Kennedy from Fox Business, who I know a lot of you are. Bad audio is a hate crime. Of course it is. Of course it is. I'm going to have to try and fix that. Hopefully I'm at least legible. But, the Kennedy was speaking, and let's try and move this around a bit, because sometimes that'll do it. Tell me if this improves it at all. Just, see, this is why it's the first time doing this solo. I'm never the tech guy, but I figure I gotta figure this stuff out eventually, and it's always gonna be terrible the first time I do it. All right, I hope that's a little bit better there, Connor. At least I have one viewer, but Kennedy was the one who was speaking. She was like the main event of the first night. Snaps, crackles, pops. Yeah, thank you, Joey. Ah, God, fun stuff. I gotta get a new headset. That's the moral of the story. I hope it's at least a little bit better. Okay, it's better. That's good. So, anyways, Kennedy was the first speaker. She was not the first, but the main event of the first night. Like she was the person, and it was really funny seeing her up there. She's got a great sense of humor. I don't watch her as regularly as I should, and just really funny girl. But at the end of the whole thing, she kind of just asked people to yell out questions and everything like that. I yelled out Dave Smith for president, and I was surprised at the applause that actually got. That was pretty damn cool. So the caucus is definitely making waves, even that are viewable to a lot of these people who aren't necessarily down in the trenches of the situations going on in the LP. So that was definitely reassuring. Definitely a little bit of a white pill there. Was happy to see that, but that was kind of the first night there. The second day was far more busy. You had a lot of those people who couldn't get there until. I also, one detail I left out. Michael Heiss was supposed to make it, but unfortunately due to travel issues he couldn't. And that night we found out that he wasn't going to be able to fly in. And Rob, the other guy tabling with us, needed a badge, but he didn't have one. So for the weekend, he stole Michael Heiss's identity, basically. I don't know if that's an NAP violation, but he was Michael Heiss for the weekend. But day two, you had a lot more people who weren't there the first day, and it was very busy. My voice, you can still kind of hear it in my voice. I'm very hoarse right now because it was just super, like, constantly talking to people. I didn't even really get to eat breakfast. I got it. By the time I finally had a moment when no one was coming by the table, it was already cold. And, like, it was. But hey, that's what we do. That's what we got to do to get the job done. And it was really great. As far as speakers go on the second day, I was tabling for most of it, so unfortunately I couldn't see many of the daytime speakers. But at the same time, I think that was, we had to do what we had to do. We had to stay there and kind of, not everyone unfortunately was in those sessions either, so they come by the table. We got to represent our ideas and represent the caucus. So I really didn't see anything until later that night. And they had some panel, which I sat in on, some Liberty Republican state reps and stuff. I wish you could have been there too, bro, Rich. I don't really remember the state reps all too much. Some guy named Shipley, who wasn't Mike Shipley, Nega Shipley, as I dubbed him. But after that, the great Tom Woods went on and spoke, and that was really, really awesome because he just gave a great. It wasn't so much. It was just how to basically it was very meta in a way, how to basically give a good speech. And he hit the nail. He was, as someone who's really into public speaking, the crowd, propaganda, all that different stuff. That just basically psychology. It goes beyond liberty. Like if you're in business, these are things you want to learn. Um, he was Tom Woods did a very good job explaining a lot of that stuff, and he got the honor of introducing Ron Paul. Now, here's the funny thing with that. Earlier on in the day, I had heard Ron Paul was there from one of the guys from, I can't remember the gun group. It wasn't Gun Owners of America. It was another gun group. It's going to drive me nuts now because I feel like a jackass because they were actually really good guys, and I'd like to coalition with them in the future. But one of them had told me Ron Paul was there, and Jack Lloyd and Philosopher basically told me, like, oh yeah, no, Ron Paul isn't here. He's just going to be Skyping in to kind of, do the speech and everything like that. So I took them at face value. I should have known that Jack was fucking with me, that he was pulling my leg. He's my friend, so I shouldn't. Just so you know, Jack, you've played that card now. If you ever see this, if you're never gonna get away with that again, because it's a one-trick pony thing with me. But so basically they told me Ron Paul would be Skyping in, and Tom was introducing Ron, giving him the whole spiel, calling him, he's about to Skype in here, and there was an audible like ah from the crowd. It wasn't so much a boo, but like maybe there was a few people booing, but felt bad for Tom. He was like, whoa, what the hell, like. But it was all fun and everything, and it started off with Ron like Liberty on the Liberty Report set, and there was like a glitch, everything fell out. Oh my God, the CIA shut it down. No, they're just. But then the man himself came out. Welcome to the Jungle started playing, and Ron Paul came out, and just gave a phenomenal speech up there. And seeing him on the Liberty Report is great and all. I love the Liberty Report. It's one of my go-to shows that I listen to. But nothing beats seeing the man give a speech, or especially if it's in person. Like Tom Woods talked about this too. Like you remember those old days where, I think this was on a recent podcast, you'd wake up in the morning and be like, "Oh man, I can't wait to see what Ron did in the debates this time." And basically, I don't know, there was something about that feeling. Like I love the Liberty Report, but it's not the same as seeing the guy speak or seeing him give a speech. That's just me, though. I'm sure some people probably prefer the Liberty Report. I don't know, but yeah, no, it really was phenomenal because it really dawned on me halfway through listening to him talking about all the things currently going on in this country, and him just still holding those principles. He is still the same principled man that made me fall in love with the ideas of liberty back in 2011. And goddamn, there's something about that it's so refreshing. Because there's a lot of people out there in the world who just unfortunately sell out their ideas. Like someone who pops out to me is Shepard Fairey. He used to be a kind of like anarcho-syndicalist, Noam Chomsky kind of guy. In case you're not familiar with him, he created the Obey merchandise, like that Obey poster and all that. And to me, he sold out when he made the Obama Hope poster. Even worse, he doesn't understand why people like me are mad at him for being a sellout. Oh, they're mad at me for making money. No, we're mad at you for selling out your ideas. But no, it was just great to see someone like this, someone principled, someone who truly is. Heck yeah, Connor! Thank you for the sub. I got to figure out the Streamlabs here more too, but it really is a great feeling just to see someone up there who is just as awesome as they were back then. And I seriously understand why he's a hero to so many, and I really don't know what else to say about that. But it was phenomenal being able to really see him up there, because who knows how much longer he could do all this, you know what I mean? But heck, I mean the fucking the stroke couldn't keep the guy down. He's still go out there fighting for liberty. He truly is one of the greatest. But going on to day 3 there, that's when things were still pretty busy, but luckily things got a little bit easier because food was expensive as shit in that hotel. Like it was very, very expensive. So it was nice to finally have some food that was being provided by YAL. So thank you for helping my bank account there. But it was really cool. It was finally around then that I decided to go around and kind of talk to these different tables. Go around, talk to the Atlas Society, the John Quincy Adams Institute, The girl running the Reason booth, a girl named Hillary, she was really nice. Lola, the Ladies of Liberty Alliance, I hope I got that right. Like all these different groups, it was nice to go around and kind of just talk to them and get a feel of like what they're doing, what they have going on, and it was really just something great, just to kind of see like, well, even if these people aren't necessarily on our side 100%, even though I would love them to be, it's nice to see them working on things that are taking us in the right direction. Except for Cato. Fuck Cato. Now, someone told me that someone who had ran for office as a libertarian, I guess, walked by. It was by the Cato table talking to someone else, and said something along. This is just what I heard. I don't know if this actually happened, but I just thought this was pretty humorous. And they were walking by there, and they was talking like, "Oh yeah, I ran for office. Oh yeah, yeah, I ran as a libertarian." Oh my God, not you weren't with the Mises Caucus, were you? And it was just like they were telling me that, and I was just like, "What the fuck did we do to piss in their cereal?" I don't know. There's something to that where it's like, I'm not gonna judge someone just because they're with a certain organization or anything like that. Like I just, I have my reasons that I'm not so loving of Reason magazine. But I wouldn't be a dick because the people at that table were really good. It was nice to talk with them. We had a good conversation. But then like to hear something like that, it's like, what did we do to you? I mean, you guys are the ones publishing articles saying that it would be vaccine passports would be okay, so as long as corporations were doing it and not the government. I mean, come on. I don't know. It was definitely really interesting. There was also one girl that I met who I guess had worked for Tim Pool before, and that was definitely an interesting character to meet there. There were a lot of interesting people there. I'm trying to think who else, because there were a lot of there was one fellow who I guess had run for a libertarian office in the past and is currently running as a Republican in Kentucky just to see if it yields any results, because YAL basically told him they'd fund him if he did it. But if it does, his thing he basically told me is if it doesn't yield results, I'm going back to the LP. So that'll be interesting to see. Thanks for the sub, Rich. It really, just seeing all these people there and just kind of interacting with all these different ideas and seeing where we all landed, where everyone is going, it really was just a great time. No other way to put it. But going on to that final day, I think a lot of people were getting tired, myself included. I unfortunately missed the first speakers of the day, which included the rapper Zuby. Sucked. I actually really wanted to meet that guy. Big fan. If anyone's into hip hop, I just appreciate his work. Even before he kind of became a voice in this sort of sphere of things, he's always been pretty good. But as far as speakers go for that third day, there weren't really any hardcore libertarian. I mean, there was Glenn Jacobs, Kane, the great Glenn Jacobs. Great, really huge guy, by the way. Like, I took a picture with him, and Jesus Christ, that guy's big. Like, I almost want to ask, you mind choke slamming through the Cato table? I'm kidding. But, it was definitely a more relaxed day than anything else, I would say. That was kind of when I had to panic because one of our signs that said "My Body, My Choice" had disappeared, and someone had saw the guy and the girl that took it, but I guess we never saw him again because I was hanging out with that person the rest of the night to see if he saw them at all. But yeah, once again, guys, private property, like the fuck. But the little bump in the road aside, it was still a great time, and it was still nice to just be able to go out there and interact with all these different libertarians who are still like, they really do have a lot of them do have an ear of what's been going on with us. You know, it really does amaze me just how many people are looking in at our situation and what's going on. Like even Kennedy. The thing that surprised me the most with Kennedy when I yelled out Dave Smith for president is she brought up the power, as she put it, power struggle within the Libertarian Party. And to be real, I wasn't sure how much she would know about that. She's in Fox. I get she's a libertarian and all that. I know she knows Dave Smith and Michael Malice, but there's you can know those kinds of people and not really have an ear to, like, how long did it take for the Mises Caucus and all this stuff going on to be on Tim Pool's radar, even though he had interacted with those guys a lot in the past. So, like, I mean, that's just what I thought, but it was really interesting to see that. There was another guy who I was even talking to on the final night, like this really buff dude who was like former army, um, who he's basically, I guess you could say he kind of has a rooting interest in us, but he's very cynical on the Libertarian Party, just from like Nicholas Sarwark and all that stuff. And I brought up apparently at the Florida convention last July, for the national convention. I guess Sarwark was in the hot tub with a mask on. I don't know if that was true. It's just something I heard. But I brought that up, and that guy just immediately let out like an audible cringe, and it was uh, it was really just interesting to kind of see what these people think, and it really just makes me wonder, like these sort of like the Sarwark types and all that, are they that much in a bubble that they just can't recognize that like the people who would be on your side are greatly disappointed with you and everything you've done. Like they are not a fan. There is no love at all there. And it really got me thinking a lot about that. Um I mean, like you have the more conspiratorial people who would say Sarwark's a plant, I guess, but who the hell knows? I don't know, fucking know. I don't know the guy. But I don't know, like it's one of those things like get your head off the ground, out of the. Am I off the air? Oh well, but it get your head out of the sand and try and come out here. Like going back to what I was saying before, like in 2015, I remember there was at least one libertarian speaker, maybe two from the LP. Going back to that, I want to go back to 2015 for a second. I was sitting next to like this hardcore Republican when the Libertarian Party guy was up there. I don't remember his name. I really wish I could, because this made me like I remember this out of like all the things that happened at that convention. And this guy, like, basically the Libertarian Party guy said something in his speech about along the lines of like, we shouldn't send our sons and daughters into a meat grinder overseas. Basically saying we shouldn't go do that. And what was amazing was this this hardcore Republican guy sitting next to me just got like, oh, like he was just like so like appalled that anyone would, how dare they use such language, like I said like, what, you got a problem? He's like, yeah, that's horrible. It's like, I mean like that's horrible that you say that. It's like, I mean, he's right, like he's brutal, but he's right. But that's just me reminiscing about 2015. Like 2021 is a totally different crowd. Like everyone I knew from those days is not here. There was a few people that I knew here and there, a few people that I had seen before online, but I didn't really get a chance to go introduce myself. But like no one that I had known from like those old days. Like Young Americans for Liberty has changed a lot, even beyond the things that happened, very publicly and all that, YAL 2 and all that. But it's definitely changed a lot. But I still think it's something worthwhile to deal with, like something worthwhile to reach out to. And frankly, I really don't know what else to say, because it really was perplexing just to see all these people who are so clearly on our side. And if we really had the reins and had our shit in order, these are the type of people who would want to be with us. So that's that. I do have one more funny story here. Waffle House, the god that failed. Someone's gonna get mad. I know that. But so for those who don't know why the Denny's Caucus was founded kind of as a joke in the LP, it's because at the Florida convention at 11, after we were partying, a bunch of people decided to go to the Waffle House, but they were only doing takeout only, and they wouldn't see people. So everyone from Florida came back, and that night we kind of made the Denny's Caucus as a joke. It's not personal animosity with the Waffle House. It's just Hegelian dialectics. Thesis, antithesis. And with that, we went out with Tom, me, Jack, Philosopher, and a few other folks, like good people who I had never met before, but now I'd consider to be just good folk. I'd be happy to see them at another convention. We decided to go to the Waffle House, and lo and behold, the exact same thing happened. We rolled up to the one, takeout only, but those people were kind enough to tell us, yeah, there's another one down the road, and I think they're still seating people. So we go down the road. It's getting late at this point. Like, it's really late. And we get to this other one, takeout only. And that was a no-go either. All right, Rich, yeah, Denny's Caucus. Yeah, fuck those Nazis of the Waffle House Caucus. But we went down. That one was only takeout too. So finally, we're like, okay, fine, we'll go to Denny's. This wasn't even my idea. This was Tom and Jack thinking out loud, trying to figure out what to do. And we went to Denny's. They were still open and still kind of seating people, but they were doing a lot of like it was almost empty. But at the same time, there were like 5 other parties in front of us, and like I don't know if that has to do with COVID or being understaffed, because there's a lot of places that just are having trouble hiring people right now, even here in Florida. But needless to say, Denny's is the god that failed us. So let it be said, Denny's, the god that failed. I don't know whether to dissolve the caucus or just keep it going, but part of me wants to keep it going just for the hell of it, But yeah, at that point, because it was getting so late, Tom was just like, I'm just gonna head in. Him and his girlfriend went to bed, went home, and the rest of us just went back to the hotel and got food there. But it was a fun night. I suppose not many people can say that story. But as far as the rest of the convention goes, another thing that was interesting was meeting some of these other libertarians in the state that I maybe never met before. Because that's another thing I didn't really occur to me, because I've gone to a lot of these LP conventions, and those are really fun. I love going to the Libertarian Party conventions. They're just, it's great meeting a lot of those people. But you see a lot of the same people every time you go. It's just the nature of politics, and I assume it's probably the case in a lot of places. And same goes with the LP of Florida. Great. I love the Libertarian Party of Florida. They are my tribe. But a lot of these people, I see them all at the same places. With this one, it was like seeing a lot of people that I'd never met before. It's like, oh, you're up in Gainesville, or oh, you're down in God dang, man! Like we're all over the place. Like it's really is a cool kind of thought there. And my hope is a lot of these people really enjoyed what we had to say with the Mises Caucus. Hopefully we can onboard some more people. I mean, heck, even if you're in another state, there's people we've talked to from Michigan, or from, I'm trying to remember what other places. There were quite a few people from Michigan that I talked to. Just people from all over the U.S. that it was interesting, and we'll definitely be sending all the information that we took from people. We still took emails and numbers and all that. We'll be sending those, obviously, to the caucus, and they'll get those out to the proper state coordinators, and they'll go from there. But there's so many people out there. Like, you hear that cliche saying of like, oh, most people are libertarians, but they just don't know it yet, or they just don't know the ideas or anything. I wouldn't say that, but what I would say is there are a lot more libertarian-minded people out there in the world than you realize, and it is really refreshing to see that. It's kind of like one of these things, like in the coming days, I know I'm going to have those post-convention blues. Like, I'm just going to be sitting at work dealing with some woman, and I'm like, oh, God damn it, I really wish I was not dealing with this person. I could just deal with some of these other libertarians more. But, that's life. But, Michigan represent. But, that was, it was a really great to just kind of spread the Mises Caucus out there, and really, spread me cocks, but that was horrible. It was also really cool to talk to Tho Bishop and Eric Brakey, 2 people who I know they're not on board with our tactics, but it's really interesting to sit down with those guys and just have an honest-to-God conversation about the Ron Paul Revolution, where we go from there, what we can do. I kind of told Tho my position on defensive voting and all that, especially in regards to Florida right now and the pandemics. And yeah, it was just great to have a nice discussion about that. it's amazing how we can have more civilized discussions with them than we can, unfortunately, with some of the people in the party. But hopefully one day that can change, because I don't want it to be that way. And we could disagree and still be friends. We could still be on the same side. Like, it was really cool though, just to interact with all those different guys. I'm trying to think if there's anything else there. Talked with a lot of people about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. That was huge. I met quite a few folks there who were into Bitcoin and crypto. I was wearing a Bitcoin pin the whole weekend, kind of as a way of sparking that conversation. I didn't really, if I'm going to wear anything to try and start a discussion, I'm going to go with that one. I got an ANCAP flag too, but let's face it, there's like 5 other guys here wearing that. The Bitcoin one's unique in the sense that it really opens up that discussion. And there's a lot of crypto bugs in the Liberty sphere. Like, there's just a lot of liberty-minded people. Like, of course, you have a bunch of other people in the Bitcoin sphere who might not share our opinions and, may have, like, different takes on things. But it really was interesting because I remember when Bitcoin was first starting out, it was, like, almost entirely libertarians and ANCAPs. And it was nice to see a lot of that come out in person and really sit down and talk to a lot of these guys. One guy who apparently been working a lot in the bit, he kept on calling himself a Bitcoin maximalist, but he was also into like Ethereum and stuff, so I don't know if that counts. Like, great guy. I think his name was Ian. I was talking with him during lunch, and it's like, you're not completely maximalist, but I can see why you go for King BTC. But that was definitely really reassuring. I know Clint from Lockdown Liberty was there. I did not get a chance to talk with him, unfortunately. That was, I really would have liked to have, but it was like every time I saw him, it was always during like an event or something, and I thought, oh, I'll go try and find him afterwards, and unfortunately not. But hopefully one day he can come on with the Swamp Creatures. We would love to talk with him at some point. But yeah, that was really cool. Another funny thing that happened here. So there were some tables there that were just empty. Like, someone had paid for the table and no one was there, and it was honestly kind of perplexing. Like the Republican Liberty Caucus, for example. No, nothing against them, but that entire like second day there, I don't think they were there. Like, they weren't there until the final day, and it's one of those things like. The Republican Liberty Caucus, guys, this is, my criticism is that the Libertarian Party isn't here. Like, this is your thing, Young Americans for Liberty. Another one, though, that really cracked me up was Turning Point USA paid for a table. And they were not there at all the whole weekend. They were just not there. There was zero presence from them whatsoever. So with that, Magnus and some of the redacted boys basically took over their table, put up one of those flags, just started talking to people and shaking hands, and it was hilarious. Like, I thought it was great. I had to go up and say hey and, just go see what they were up to, because I just thought that was just, like, there was almost like this thought of, like, I don't know if anyone knows what terra nullius is. It's an old international law where if land is unclaimed by any government or anything like that, anyone can come in and claim it and plant a flag and start their own government. And basically, these guys basically applied that to the Turning Point USA table, because Turning Point didn't show up at all. But, maybe that was for the better, because there was a lot of people who didn't seem to like Turning Point there, and I don't blame them. I'm not a fan of Turning Point either. I can't get over the fact of Charlie Kirk's face being smaller than his head. Like, it's kind of like Cory Booker's Dead Eye. Like Cory Booker, same thing. Like, I don't know any of his views because I just can't, like he's up there debating and I'm just like, what? Huh? What? I'm sorry, I can't stop staring at the eye. Same thing with Charlie Kirk. Like, I just cannot get over, like, I'm just like, can you please turn around and make the same points so that I can try and digest this and see what your perspective is a little bit? But yeah, no, Turning Point, like, there definitely was a little bit of animosity among some of those Young Americans for Liberty people, and a few other folks as well who were not fans. And I don't have any animosity towards Turning Point. I'm just not a fan. Like, no other way to put it. But it definitely was something interesting to behold. like one person I talked to was like, yeah, I'm here, and I was talking to someone, and I was talking to this guy, and he was like, I was like, oh, well, what do you do? Oh, well, I run my Turning Point chapter back at my college, and like she's just like, oh God, yeah, like it's kind of something funny to behold to hear that from someone. But but yeah, it was a really interesting weekend. Oh, here's a funny one for anyone who listens to the Swamp Creatures podcast. Another shameless plug of the Swamp Creatures. Uh, I ran into Nick Ashley and his wife in the hallway, and I was rushing back to my room to go get something. I forget what it was, but I was rushing back to my room. It was like, oh, Swamp Creatures! Like I froze. Like I just was dumbfounded. Like I didn't put two and two together, and like I was like, I didn't think of his name. Like I knew who he was, but I just for some reason I could not remember his name in that second. And I was like, Ashley! Like it hit me, but like, oh man, he feel free to Nick can take as many shots as he wants at me now for that because that was embarrassing, but. Nick's a good guy. We still went out and like drank with him and his wife and got dinner later on that night. And that great guy, good fellow. I'm glad that they could make it out to the event as well. Um, it was nice to see a lot of those different personalities there. But what else? Let me try and think. I'm trying to think if there's anything else worth talking about at this convention because there was. It was definitely a really good convention. Um, it was definitely really refreshing, given the current state of the world right now. Like. I didn't know this. Apparently, there was a Young Americans for Liberty conference that was canceled in Texas because of the lockdowns. So it's really nice to see that happening here in the free state of Florida, you know, as compared to like all these other places. And there also was one guy there too, who I guess he's a Ron Paul endorsed Republican who is running for governor of Texas, trying to get rid of Abbott. Um, I'm kind of always under the impression of do what we can where we can, you know, depending on when you're playing a card game, you're going to play the cards that work the best, like Magic the Gathering or Gwent or one of those things. You're going to play the cards that work the best that you have in your hand. So I don't know how I feel about that, but in some ways I wish him the best. I don't know if they'll be able to get rid of Abbott, but all power to him. But trying to think what other things. There were a lot of state reps from New Hampshire that we met there. A lot of Liberty Republicans from the state of New Hampshire. So there are those guys as well, and they definitely liked us with the Mises Caucus, which was pretty interesting. A lot of those guys came by and said, "Hey, we hope you guys do well. We wish you luck. Like even though we were doing our own thing, like have at it. We love the work that you're doing." So that was really reassuring. And once again, that kind of goes back to like at the end of the day, a lot of this party stuff is just surface deep. You know, we try to work with people where we can on what we can to make a difference in our world and try and bring about the revolution. I mean, we are the revolution. I am the revolution, as the shirt says. One of the shirts I got there at the convention. But yeah, it was really great. What was very different about it was all the times I've gone to YAL things in the past, it's always been with the exception of one that was at a hotel that I went to, it's always been on a college campus or something like that. And this one was happening at the Gaylord Palms here in Florida, which, if you don't know, the Gaylord Palms is one of probably the nicest hotel in Orlando. It is great, but it is super expensive. And that much was clear when it came to like not movies, but food, drinks, like things like that. And if you ever want to get an idea of this place, look up some of their ice sculptures that they have in the winter in that place because it is insane. And that place is just gigantic. Like it just felt like a very different kind of thing just because of that alone, Something about it just it felt like a very different event. I mean, maybe that's me too talking because I've been to YAL stuff since 2015. So, and I've kind of seen things and maybe it just feels so different because it's not the same people. But it was a very different kind of feeling in that sense. But that, it wasn't a bad thing. It definitely was great to see. Um, yeah, trying to think what other things. Let me get a drink here because my hoarse voice I'm still dealing with here, still recovering. Already looking forward to everyone at work asking me if I have COVID tomorrow. No, I'm fine. Oh man. But oh yeah, there was also that one woman who got arrested um, in Texas for opening up her salon. I cannot remember her name. This blonde woman. She spoke too. She was very Republican, but she did say a few things libertarian here and there. But something about that, like this is someone who, she even said up there, if you had told me I'd be up here talking about this like 2 years ago, I wouldn't have believed you. And there's something about that where it's like someone who has been like forced into action because of the events that have gone on over the past year. Like here you had a woman who her livelihood was shut down. Her workers are going to her like they can't make ends meet. And I believe it. I totally believe it. Like I don't work in a salon industry, but I work with dogs and I work with dog groomers and I could totally believe something like that happening even with those types of folks as well. And to hear her story of how they opened up, it was just opened up and had to deal, they eventually arrested her. I think she went to jail for like 7 days or something like that. Just to kind of hear that story, there's something about that, like, it's almost a white pill and a red pill there. Like a white pill in the sense for people like us, where it's like you're seeing people forced to take a look at the ugly nature that is government. Like you are now forced to because it is affecting your livelihood. Because there's a lot of people who they just don't really care because they have other things going on. They have families. They go out. They have relationships. They have all these different things. Obviously we have these things too, but this isn't their hobby. This isn't something that they're passionate about. Some people are passionate about movies. Some people are passionate about art. Some people are love to work out a lot. Some people just like to go to the beach and go out and explore nature. And it's really interesting to see those kinds of people being forced in, and I hate to have to use the word for force, but like basically being having no choice but to really open their eyes and look at things. It's kind of like they really have to take that bitter red pill, and it's almost like a white pill for people like us because in a way it is hope for the future because we aren't we aren't robots. We can't really shut down and all right, close down for 2 weeks and just do like you can't just go into hibernation. You don't have the fucking the the tubes from Futurama where people freeze themselves, and that's just not the world we live in. So something about that. It was a really interesting speech from her. That much I'll say. Like I can't say I agreed with everything she said because she was very very Republican. But in a way, it was really nice to hear someone who was forced to really take a harsh look at the government, the state, and all that stuff. And hell, who knows? Maybe she will eventually, go the libertarian route because she was not too fond of Abbott because being from Texas, she was the one getting the brunt of that and everything going on there. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else I could say about any of these speakers. The problem is with some of these reps, I wasn't too familiar with them, so it was kind of hard for me to really get an idea. There a lot. There was one guy who I actually did have a lot of respect for. He was the first speaker on night one. I cannot remember the guy's name. Even though he was a Liberty Republican, I gotta give him mad respect where he's basically pissing off all the Republicans in his party, in his state. Where they basically went to him, it's like, you're new. For your first year, you really don't want to do anything and just kind of sit back and see how this whole thing works. And this guy's like, no, I'm not doing that. And he basically went out of his way to strip his governor's emergency powers away. And he managed to do it successfully. And, that's one of those things where, like, even though it's not in the LP, I gotta say, respect, man. Respect where it's due. You did a good job. Um, I wish I could remember that guy's name. That's the problem with the program I have in back of here. Just a nitpick if anyone from YAL ends up seeing this. Their program just said keynote speakers and stuff like that. It's like I really would like to know who is up. Like I mean, that's kind of what happened with Zuby. Like I didn't realize he was on so early. Him being the big name that he was, I was kind of expecting him to be on like around the same time as Glenn Jacobs and stuff. And then I'm like in the other room, I was like, wait, he went on? Oh, son of a bitch! Like, but no, it was a great time. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can report on with this whole thing. Things went really well at the Mises Caucus. We had a great setup at our table. Like, we had the supplies that Michael Heiss had sent to us, but we also had a lot of the stuff left over from our Florida conference as well. So it was really nice to just have all that stuff there. So we really came looking good, looking almost like we were. There's a lot of these different tastes. Some of them were just very basic. I don't fault people. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. But it was nice that we really had that great set. We had our banner, we had our signs from the anti-mask, anti-mandate rallies. We just were doing everything, and on the final day, we actually walked around with some of the signs and took pictures. Offered people pictures with the signs. So we're hoping to have those put up on the Mises Caucus Facebook page to kind of get people kind of gets people to check us out as well, which is nice. Because there are a lot of people who just saw those signs, like "My Body, My Choice," like I'm trying to think of what some of the other ones are. "Freedom over Fear," like they just love that. Um, even if they're not with the Libertarian Party, it's a message that resonates with a lot of people. So that was really cool. But as far as things go, it was just a great weekend. Shout out to Michael Heiss for basically handing us the reins and keeping us up and everything, and letting Rob steal his identity for the weekend. Thanks for helping us get the ball rolling here. Shout out to Rob Vinson too, the other state coordinator. You need the other state coordinator here in Florida with me. He did a great job, really helping us table. Rob's just natural at tabling, man. Like I'm pretty good at it, but like that guy, like it is just like second nature to the guy. Like he is just great at that whole. He's done a lot more. Like he tabled at the Black Guns Matter events up in Tallahassee some months ago. Like he really did phenomenal with that. Yeah, it would have been nice if we had more merch. It really would have. But we'll always in the future, one step at a time. Hell, maybe if the Mises Caucus wants me to make another poster, I'll do it. If you don't know, I made the Ron Paul Be Brave poster. But I also made the Joe Jorgensen Let Her Speak poster. So there's that. But, yeah, no, that was great. Shout out to Christian Purley, too. I think he's one of the organizers in Orange County in Florida. And, he didn't have to come out. It was one of those things, like, it was only the two of us, so we thought it would be good to have that extra set of hands there and just... And he did not need to make it. He did, like he's, being wheelchair bound. Like it was just great that he was able to come out and really help us out, and like shout out to him and really giving us a hand on that final day and working it into his work schedule and all that. But yeah, no, it was really great. And I guess I'm pretty optimistic right now going out of that. Just seeing how some of those people, like, there was way more positivity than there was any negativity. Like the only negativity I already talked about was from one woman who thought Mises was Hazlitt's wife, and another guy who just didn't like that we had coalitioned with certain. I think it was the Democratic Socialists of America, where we technically coalitioned just because we wanted to get not down ticket voting. What's it called? I can't believe my mind is forgetting this, but we check the boxes. Ranked choice voting. Just got to do what you got to do. I mean, I hate them on every other topic, but you got to do what you got to do sometimes. The example that I used when talking to that guy was, hey man, Ron Paul worked with Dennis Kucinich back in the day to try and get rid of the drug war. So, you got to do what you got to do. Do I wish that we had more principled liberals instead of socialists to work with? Oh yeah, definitely. Like a million, like I cannot stand. Like I have a burning hatred for soda. That was one thing where me and this guy actually, he wasn't even negative. Like it was just a good discussion. He was just more skeptical of us than anything else. It was like I straight up told him, like, hey man, like my family's from Eastern Europe, dude. Like we've been fucked by the communists, the fascists, like all those guys. Like I don't like any of them. But sometimes especially in the world of politics, the nation that we live in, especially right now, given the unfortunate rise of some of these ideas. But I could keep going on about that. Now that I have this figured out and that I'm actually alive, I'm probably going to be doing this more in the future now, so that'll be nice. And who knows? Hopefully, I can get a co-host on here too. I know my buddy Tyler, who's not a libertarian, but he's kind of like a liberty-minded conservative fellow. Maybe I can get him on here, and it would just be nice to introduce him to some of these liberty ideas. Because every time we talk, it's always something new that I'm showing him. So I don't know. I hope that anyone who did watch this though, that you had a good time, and heck, if you did go to the convention, I hope you had a great time as well. Like, honestly, shout out to all the Mises Caucus folks who went there, because there were a bunch of Mises Caucus people there as well. Um, like there were multiple people who came up and like introduced themselves as members of the Mises Caucus, or people like just fans of what we were doing. There was one guy who, I don't know what the situation in Illinois is right now, but he was gung ho on getting involved in the caucus in that state. So I look forward to hopefully seeing that guy working with us more in the future. But yeah, that's basically all I can say about the convention. It was really great. It was definitely a little hopeful for the future. But at the same time, with what me and Magnus had talked about, and even Scott Horton had agreed with this as well. Got to get out into the community and do things as well. Like, it is very important to do these conventions and do that sort of stuff. But when you go out and volunteer in your community and do things and do it in like a shirt like this, or like just get those ideas out there, it really does a lot to get those ideas rolling. And, I realized that, like, I really think that I should have realized that years ago when I was at a Million Mask March, but perhaps that's a story for another day. Anyway, just once again, just give some plugs here. If you want to go check out some Liberty merch, I know the Mises Caucus needs more, but I sell it. I'll probably drop that in the description after this, but I have my own store, the Libertarian Frontier, which I'm looking to rebrand here soon, simply because the Frontier project has kind of stolen a lot of traffic on Google, unfortunately. But we'll figure out a new name soon. But there's lots of great merch on there. Like there was one shirt that I guess some people were getting butthurt about on Facebook, and were saying, "Oh, I can't believe the Mises Caucus would do that." And I'm just like, "The fuck, man? That's my design. Give me credit. Like, don't give the caucus credit. I made that." It was like Mises Caucus taking over the party since 2017 or something like that, and it was humorous. But yeah, just check out the Libertarian Frontier on the Proud Libertarian or TeePublic. Those are generally the two places where I sell merch. The Proud Libertarian has a few things that I can't keep up on TeePublic, or I just wasn't able to get up there. So check out either of those. Also check out the Swamp Creatures podcast. Our Friday the 13th episode is coming up here, and a little sneak peek to anyone who's in here. We're planning on having Johnny Adams, Johnny Rocket, on. If those of you who don't know who he has done a lot of great interviews. He's been a little bit on hiatus lately, but he's a rockabilly guy from the Blast Off Radio Network, and just a good dude, big into guns and that sort of stuff. It's going to be a fun episode to have him on Friday the 13th. And then after that, we're going to have Jeffrey Hahn on from the Journalistic Revolution, and that's going to be really interesting because he just recently became a citizen of Sealand. So that'll be fun to talk about, micronations and all that. So yeah, check out the Swamp Creatures here on YouTube, and check us out on Twitter as well, at Real Swampcast. Hell, check me out on Twitter at CypherpunksCribe. Should probably change that. Same thing as this channel. Just you'll find. I'm pretty sure I'm the only Cypherpunk scribe out there. But yeah, with that, I should probably find something to close with by saying, Michael Malice always has cool stuff to say. Dude's my hero. I didn't give anyone a welcome, so I can't give them a welcome back. But anyway, yeah, Young Americans for Liberty. 2021 was a great success for the Mises Caucus, I would say. And I'm very optimistic for the future. Hell, man, Liberty's going to win.